No, you never know. And on the topic of no's and failures, I went to the red carpet for the Emmys in 2008, and I swore that was going to be my big break. I was like, I'm never going back to the chamber. Like, I remember my
Oh,
boss
wait, you
even.
went as what? As
I was a red carpet reporter for
okay, report.
people.com.
Oh,
Yeah, I was on the red
okay,
carpet. I interviewed like Kathy Griffin and Neil Patrick Harris,
mhm,
and I sang with Josh Groban. Like, I had the best time. And then I had
right.
to fly back to Florida and go to work. And I was heartbroken. I thought I was going to get an agent. I thought I was going to, I just thought, like, this is it. I'm making it. And I did not make it.
You're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin.
Hey everyone, it's Michael Jamin. Welcome back to another episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This. I have a wonderful special guest today, and she's extremely inspiring. And if you want to be a screenwriter, you need to hear how this woman broke in because it floored me. I'm here with Franchesca Ramsey, and she's a multi-talented person because she's an actor, a writer, performer, but she started as a YouTuber.
I started on the internet. It's honestly, it still blows my mind when I say it. But the internet opened so many doors for me, and I could not be more proud of the career that it's helped me build.
And you have so much, but I think what's most, like, I want to talk about all your successes, but to me what I really am interested by are all the failures that led up
Yes.
to your success, because this is not overnight
No,
that you
and
made it.
no, absolutely not. And I really try to be transparent about those things because I know how it is when you're on the other side and you're watching people have all of these wins and you're comparing yourself to them and you're assuming that everything is going their way. And the reality is, more oftentimes than not, there are so many no's behind the scene before
Right,
they got to the yeses that you're getting to watch and experience.
right.
So I've had a lot of them.
We're going to go through them, but let me just tell everyone how we met, because we only met on Friday. On Friday, I'm not big on Twitter, but I checked it for some reason. Fate told me to check it, and someone had tagged me in a tweet saying there are two screenwriters you need to follow, me and you, and your Twitter is
Chescaleigh, yeah.
Chescaleigh,
Yeah.
which is Lee, is probably your middle name.
Lee is my middle name, yeah.
Okay. And so they tagged me and you, and I didn't know you, so I was like, oh, look at her, and I clicked on your link, and then I realized, oh, what, you got a huge following, and you have some interesting, you talk about interesting things, so I follow you. And then later that day, literally that day, I'm picketing because we're on strike, the Disney lot, and then you call out to me because you recognized me.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I started following you on TikTok. It's been a while. I'm still pretty new to TikTok. I think I've only been on there like a year. I
Right.
begrudgingly joined. I was one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not a lot of TV people on there. And the thing that
Right.
I was saying to you at the Disney lot was I appreciate that you have demystified the process and the business, because there are a lot of people who love and enjoy television talking about the business, and yet they have never worked in the business. And you come from a place of,
Yeah.
I have sold shows, I've worked in hit series, you've done so many things, and just being able to see someone who knows what they're talking about, but again, is making it accessible is really inspiring. And it really is in line with the ethos of my work.
And you do all of that. I want to talk about, geez, well, I mean, actually, I should probably say how everyone knows you. Okay, you've
Yes.
done a ton. You, first of all, you were a correspondent on the nightly show with Larry Wilmore. Who,
Yes.
it's funny. I know so many writers, and I think of him as a sitcom writer because he's a writer, but he's
Yeah.
also a performer. He's like
Hmm.
yourself. He's a multi-talented person, but also Decoded on Comedy Central.
Hmm. MTV
Oh,
Decoded.
MTV.
Yeah.
Okay, iCarly, which you did one season on the
Yeah.
reboot.
I did the first season of the reboot.
Right. And that must have been, oh, I want to talk about that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. We'll talk
We're
about
going to
that.
get into all that. You wrote for the Oscars in 2020.
Hmm.
You were recurring on Superstore as an actor, right?
I was recurring for 12 episodes in season 6.
Wow, that's a
Yeah, and
lot.
I did that while I was a writer producer on iCarly. So
And they let you leave.
they did let me leave, and I had many a times that I was on set at 5 o'clock in the morning to shoot to shoot a Superstore, and then I still had to get my
Yep.
outline in on time, and
Oh
I
my
did
God.
it.
But you started. even before this, you had a viral video that
Yeah.
went on YouTube.
Yeah, so
And
I started making YouTube videos when I was in college. Not to date myself, but
right.
my senior year of college, YouTube was founded, and I started making YouTube videos. And I had my very first viral video in 2012, which was "Shit White Girls Say to Black Girls."
But you didn't start in 2012. When did you
No, I
start before
started
that?
in 2006.
And then, right, so you did years of not
Yes.
making viral videos.
Yes. I was working as a graphic designer. I worked in beauty and fashion mostly. So I worked at Maybelline. I worked in the package department. I was photoshopping eyelashes on packages. The mascara does not make your eyelashes that long.
Right.
That was me. And then I also worked at Ann Taylor, and I was working at Ann Taylor when I went viral in 2012.
But did you like when you were in high school and college, did you want to be a writer, performer?
No, so actually I wanted to be an actor. I went to a performing arts middle and high school. There are a number of alumni from my high school. The person that most people know is Eric Andre. He's a comedian.
Right.
He was a year older than me. And there are a lot of us from my high school that are still in the business. And I went to college for acting. I went to the University of Michigan, but I left largely because I was struggling after losing my acting scholarship. I had a scholarship my first year. My second year I didn't, and I got
They give you a scholarship for only 1 year? Is that
well,
how it works?
it was not a need-based scholarship, meaning that it was not based on your parents' income. It was a talent-based scholarship. So I auditioned for the school. I got a scholarship my first year. And then after that, the whole faculty voted on who got the scholarship. And because I was only a sophomore, I didn't know everybody. So most of the people that got the scholarship the next year were like juniors and seniors. So I was working part-time at school. I worked for the school public health. I was working on their website. I was a self-taught designer, had a bootleg of Photoshop, and I'd gone to HTML camp in middle school. And so I was like uploading files and shit. And I was getting paid $20 an hour. And I was like, yo, this is it. I was like, maybe I should be a graphic designer. So I left Michigan, moved back to Florida, which is where I'm from, and went to design school and was studying graphic design. Yeah. And, I always kept a blog. I'd had a website since middle school. And when YouTube came out, I was like, yo, this is really neat.
But this was just because you wanted personal expression.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool. I was on LiveJournal, and I had dreadlocks at the time. And so I was always like taking photos of my hairstyles and like doing tutorials and just writing about my daily life. I mean, before there were digital cameras, I had like a scanner. And so I would go and get my photos developed, and then I would scan them and I would post them on my little website. And it was just, I've always been a journaler. I've always like really loved like just keeping track of my life. I am an only child. So that's just always been my form of expression. And so when YouTube came out, I felt like it was the perfect combination of all the things I was already interested in. So I started making YouTube videos in 2006.
And some of them, because I scrolled down, you got a long list.
I have so many.
And some of them were just like, oh, here's how I do my hair. And here's like, but then you started venturing off into more scripted, comedy and stuff.
I mean, so honestly, what happened was I was watching Eric become a successful stand-up, and I remember him calling me and him saying, there are no Black girls in New York doing stand-up. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, this is my bad, Eric. He's like, yeah, you got it. You're just so funny. You should be doing this. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I've never done stand-up before.
Right.
And so I got a copy of the Comedy Bible, which is a great book that I recommend. Okay. And I used it to write my first stand-up set, and was doing comedy in Miami, and was making sketches and trying to promote my comedy career via YouTube. And
was that working? I mean,
yeah, it was. I mean, it's so interesting because where we are with social media is just like, it just feels so accessible now. But like back in my day, I didn't know anyone that had a website, and I had business cards that had my website and my YouTube on them. And I would go to comedy shows and I would say like, oh, you should watch my YouTube channel and like get on my email list. And, when I would do competitions at the Hollywood Improv, like I would send out emails and I would say, please come to my shows. And
did people come?
Yeah, they did. They did
So these are
come.
your fans would come, basically, people who were on your email list.
Just people that I would, if you met me somewhere, I was asking you to be on my email list. And after I graduated
Really?
college, I got a job as the communications manager at the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. So I was doing all of their graphics and PR stuff. And so I was learning how to write press releases. And so like I was using that to build my online community for my YouTube channel. And
And
yeah, and I entered a YouTube contest in 2008, I guess. Yeah, 2008. It was the Red Carpet Reporter contest, and
really,
I went to the Emmys. Yeah, and I
you
I
entered and you won.
I entered and I won, and I I really used the things I learned at the chamber. Like I sent out a press release about myself
Huh.
to like local news, and was on like my local news. I
Wow.
threw a party so people would
Right.
vote for me. Like
So this is
it
like,
was a lot.
because so many people say, well, how do I get an agent? People expect agents, managers, producers to make their career, and that's not what you are
No,
doing. You're doing
no.
it yourself, and you're not asking for permission. You're doing it.
No, I working at the chamber was really eye-opening for me because I learned so much about the power of networking. I
Right.
always had business cards. Every time I would meet someone, like a tip that I learned was I would keep a little Sharpie in my bag and I would write a interesting tidbit about them on their business card, and then I would email them and I would talk about something that they had said to me. So like if you said, "Oh, I got to leave for my kid's soccer game," I would email you and I'd say, "It was really great meeting you at the coffee with the president event. I hope your kid, killed the soccer game," just something like that. And then people would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're so thoughtful." Like,
Yeah, but
I'm
these are people who you don't are these people that you think that can help you? Like, who are these people that
no,
you're meeting that you want their
no,
business card, that you
no,
want
they're
to
not.
email them?
They're not people that I think can help me. Like I just think of it as, when you meet someone and you connect with them, it's not necessarily that they're going to help you get further, but
Mhm.
like if we have a connection and we like each other, like maybe there's a world in which we work together.
Right.
Or yeah, I'm doing this contest and I need as many votes as possible, and I met you at an event and we got along. Or I'm doing stand up now and I'm like, "Hey, remember I was kind of funny
And
when we met? Like come to the stand
but
up
how
event."
often would you, if you met, I don't know, let's say, I don't know how many people you've met in a month. Let's say it's a dozen. How often are you contacting them to stay in touch to let
So
them know
I
you're
was
alive?
so again, I was working at the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, which is a membership organization for small businesses, and
Mhm.
we would put together events. We had a weekly coffee with our president every Friday. We had dinner galas, we had golf tournaments, we would go to like opening of businesses. Like we were doing events all the time, and at every event I was just like, "Hi, hey, nice to meet you." And I was just meeting as many people as possible. And I was doing some of this on company time. I was sending emails and being like, "Hey, I met you at this event. Can I put you on my email list?"
Right. How
So
did
I
you get to be so smart about this, though? I mean, like, did someone teach you this, or is just like, I like
I
this
mean,
idea?
I will say I learned a lot from the chamber because we had like a women's group and we had like a young professionals group. And because I worked at the chamber, I was
Mhm.
there for all of these events. And I will also add, this was my first job out of college. I am still friends with the people I worked with at the chamber. I am still friends with the members that, I met when I did my book tour in 2018. I was able to do it at a bookstore that was one of the members from the chamber. When
Right.
I was like trying to get something together and the bookstore was like, "Yes, we will absolutely buy copies of your book. We remember you." Right.
Right.
And I think oftentimes people think about networking for like these selfish, I'm going to move forward.
Right.
But if you come from a genuine place of just getting to know people and showing real interest, my dad always says, "Be interested, not interesting."
Right.
Actually just like getting to know people and connect with them, you will find that people are like, "Yeah, you know what? I could throw you $5. You know what? I got a place that you can host a comedy show. Actually, I will buy a book." Like people want to help you. And I was really fortunate. I got that job not knowing what it was. And I say all the time, it really like laid the foundation for me when it came to the power of networking, and that people like who really does help you get ahead, but it also enriches your life and your career.
But how else did it help you, knowing any of these people later? Like, how else did it, materially? Okay, I get, yes, you had a book
Yeah.
and you could do a signing at the store, but how else did it help you?
I think it just helped me to see people that like believed in me, when it was time for me to have comedy shows and stuff. And especially there's so many places where you have to bring 10 people.
Oh, okay.
You got to do a bringer show if you're going to get
Right.
on stage. And so, kind of corralling my email list to get people to come and support me. When I did that YouTube contest and I needed people to vote for me,
Right.
there was a member who had a nightclub. And so I threw a party at the nightclub, and it was genuinely me just being like, can I throw a party here? And they were like, yeah, no problem. Are your friends going to buy drinks?
Right.
Yes. So I set up little laptops and I had people voting for me at the party, and
Wow.
I won the contest.
So these are just so small, little unexpected ways that just pay off, but you don't know how or when.
Yeah.
They pay off.
No, you never know. And on the topic of no's and failures, I went to the red carpet for the Emmys in 2008, and I swore that was going to be my big break. I was like, I'm never going back to the chamber. Like, I remember my boss.
Wait, you went as what?
I was a red carpet reporter for people.com.
Oh.
Yeah, I was on the red carpet. I interviewed like Kathy Griffin and Neil Patrick Harris, and I sang with Josh Groban. Like, I had the best time. And then I had to fly back to Florida and go to work. And I was heartbroken. I thought I was going to get an agent. I just thought like, this is it. I'm making it. And I did not make it.
How did you get that job to begin with? The red carpet job. If you didn't have an agent.
I entered the YouTube contest. So
that
the
was
contest
from that. Okay.
Yeah. So you had to send in a video of you doing an interview, and I interviewed like my boyfriend at the time and my dog. And then I was in the finalist, and then I went on the streets of Miami Beach and I just interviewed people.
Right.
And then it was voting. So then I was hustling to get votes.
It's so funny because you are not shy. I mean,
no.
Like that's how I met. I mean, right. And good for you. And good for you. I mean, who else is going to advocate for you if not for yourself? I think people want agents, like they want an advocate. Well, be your own advocate. How about that?
Yeah, no, it's totally true. And look, I did that red carpet reporter contest, and I was kind of thrown to the wolves in that nobody was helping me interview people. They gave me a list of potential celebrities, and I watched as many shows that were nominated as possible. I wrote jokes. There was a person under the camera poking me in the leg, being like, you got to hurry it up, wrap it up, wrap it up. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I just was going for it. And I really thought, and my videos they were funny. The clips were viral. It was doing great. And then nothing happened. Like, it was
Did they ask you back the year later or no?
No, nothing. No, they didn't even do the contest again. It just was over. I thought people.com was like, we loved you. And I was like, great. Do you want to hire me? And they were like, no.
No, what makes you what would you think we want to hire you?
I was so heartbroken. I moved to New York the next year, and I did kind of like the little tour. Like, I went to the people offices, I got all dressed up, and I was like, remember me? I won that contest. And they were like, yes. What do you want? And I was like, I thought I would get a job.
Really?
Yeah.
And so then what happened? So, okay, good. You're here, and then you fell back a couple of pegs. That's fine. And then what happened?
Yeah. So I was kind of pounding the pavement in New York. I did all sorts of jobs. I stuffed envelopes for like a temp agency, and I'd gone to school for graphic design, and I was going to lots of events in New York. Like, I went to Social Media Week in New York, and I met a guy at Social Media. He probably was trying to date me. In hindsight, I had a boyfriend, but I met this guy at Social Media Week, and he worked for a creative temp agency. And he was like, oh, well, I can help you find a job. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. So at this temp agency, I was just doing design for a bunch of different places. So I did some design for the Botanical Gardens. I had to ride an hour-plus train up to the freaking Bronx, and I was, pushing pixels around for the Botanical Garden. I also worked for this place that did like a big book of I guess it was like a fashion book that got put out every year. I don't really remember what it was, but I was, just doing a lot of photo editing and stuff. And then I got the Maybelline job through a friend.
But but then all the while you're still putting out YouTube videos, right?
Yeah, I was still making YouTube videos. I was usually like waking up early and editing. I was stealing my neighbor's Wi-Fi, so I would upload before I went to work, because that was when nobody was on the internet. YouTube was very slow back then. So
Yeah.
you had to like leave your computer uninterrupted to upload videos.
And but people were slowly finding you at this point, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I was building a little bit of an audience because I was making those hairstyle videos. And remember, I had a website in middle school and high school.
Right.
So I was building my audience. Like I was in this live journal community called Oh No They Didn't, which is like a gossip community. So I posted my videos there. I was in a dreadlock community called Get Up Dread Up, and I would post my hair videos there.
But at some point you decided to make a leap because you had that one video that went viral.
Yeah, so actually before that, I entered another contest in 2011 called the YouTube Next Up contest, and I won that contest. It was a contest to find like YouTube's next big stars, and it was me and 25 other people, and we each won $35,000.
Nice.
And we spent a week at YouTube learning how to like better produce our videos, and we got new cameras and
out here at YouTube and
in
like,
New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, my partner and I ran a show from Rhett and Link.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah.
They're
had
great.
a show. YouTube offered them money, like a lot of money, to make a sitcom, and they hired us to be the writer.
Oh, cool. So, yeah. No, I love them. I was in an old collab video with them years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I got to meet so many YouTubers from that. And actually my current writing partner, I met her through the YouTube Next Up. She was a freelance producer at YouTube, and they put us in little teams and had us making YouTube videos. And she and I really hit it off, and we stayed friends. And the year after I did Next Up is when I had my first big viral video. And I really believe that Next Up taught me a lot about, you know, tentpole content, like thinking about my content around holidays and special events and trending stories and finding ways to infuse my personal voice. And so I started kind of like changing my content where I was just doing hair stuff and I was doing random comedy things, just being more focused.
And what was your focus?
Well, my focus was more of looking at trends and finding ways to infuse myself in them and looking at what everybody's talking about and how can I put my own unique spin on it. And so what happened was there was a viral video called Shit Girls Say.
Right.
And it was a guy in a wig just doing a bunch of different things that girls say. And there were lots of parodies. There was like shit black girls say, shit moms say, shit dads say. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, I want to do one, but I don't know what I want to do. And I had gone home for the holidays and I was at a party, a Christmas party. And everyone was drinking and I was not because I was the designated driver. And as my friends were getting drunker, people were starting to say some things to me that just were, at the time, things that a lot of my white suburban friends would say to me and I wouldn't think twice about. But because I had this video in my head, I was like, oh, maybe this is the video. People were like touching my hair and, you know, just saying things that I don't believe were coming from a bad place. But I was like, something is in this. But I was like, I don't know what to make this. It's like, I was like, shit black girls say, I was like, shit white girls say. And I hate to even say it. My ex was like, maybe it should be shit white girls say to black girls. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. The meme is shit girls say. So it has to be that. And my ex was like, why? Why does it have to be like that? And I was like, I don't know. I really wrestled with it. And then I thought, well, maybe that's what it'll be. So I wrote down all of the things that people had said to me.
Right.
I shot the video, I uploaded it before I went to work. And by lunchtime, it had like 1 million views. And my email was just like blowing up. My phone was just like going nuts. No one at Ann Taylor knew I made YouTube videos. And I was like freaking out. I was like, what the frick is happening?
Freaking out because you were worried you were in trouble at Ann Taylor or what?
No, I was just freaking out in the sense that I was feeling overwhelmed because my inbox was suddenly, you know, NPR wants to interview you and the Huffington Post wants to write something about you. And like all of these agents and SNL reached out to me and they were like, we would love for you to audition for SNL. And I was like, what the frick? I was at work while this was happening. And I was like crying at my desk and my coworkers were like, what is
tears of joy? No?
Tears of joy, but also tears of like, I'm very emotional. I was just overwhelmed. Like, I don't know how to handle this. And
that video is wonderful. Yeah. Obviously I watched it, but I mean, you were making a statement.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I knew I was making a statement. I thought I was just genuinely, I thought I was making a video about being from West Palm Beach, going to private school, where oftentimes I was the only Black person in my class, and having my friends who were well-meaning say things to me that I knew made me feel uncomfortable, but I wasn't really sure why.
You weren't sure why.
I wasn't sure why, but I knew there was something funny about it. And I think my surprise was realizing that I had captured a universal experience that other Black people and just marginalized people in general experience, where people in their lives are like, you're different from me, and they're acknowledging it in a way that is not necessarily malicious, but it does still feel uncomfortable.
But some of them were kind of cringy. Some were like, ooh, some of them really say that to you. Like,
oh my God.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. But that's also what was incredible to me about it, is because the comments were like, this is my life. The comments were saying, I am the only Black girl in my school in Idaho, and this has happened to me. And I'm watching these comments come in and realizing like, oh, I did something with this that I didn't anticipate. Yeah. I got invited to be on Anderson Cooper. They did a whole segment about me in that video. I had never been on national television before. And I was like, I had no agent, I had no help. I did my own makeup, which I think I did good, but like, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And
how did your friends react to it though, when they saw it?
Oh my God, they thought it was amazing. But they
were the ones who said these things to you.
Yeah. And they were like, this is really fun. One of the girls that like was the main culprit came with me to Anderson Cooper.
But aren't they supposed to apologize? I mean, they're not supposed to think it's funny. They're supposed to say, I'm sorry I said those things.
I think it's also just a symptom of where I was in my life, because at that time, now we talk about privilege and microaggressions in a way that feels, very forward thinking and progressive. And in 2012, we were not.
Right.
And so again, while I knew that those comments made me uncomfortable, I did not have the language to explain why. And I did not believe my friends were malicious, and I still don't believe that they were malicious. It's just a symptom of your privilege. And that is something that people do all of the time, right? Like straight people do that to gay people, able-bodied people do that to disabled people, like cis people do that to trans people. It happens across every dynamic and every identity. And so I don't think my friends, some of them did feel like, oh my God, this makes me like look bad. But I didn't have anyone that felt like, oh, Franchesca hates me. Like, everybody knew I was making comedy content. And a lot of my friends that were sharing it across all backgrounds were like, oh my God, this has happened to me. Or, oh my God, I need to check myself because in context, this doesn't seem great.
Right. Now, I imagine putting yourself out there, because I know what it's like, it exposed you to backlash too, and negative comment.
Oh my God. Yes.
what was that like for you the first time? And what's your advice for me?
It was really hard. It was really hard. So that video got about 12 million views in the first week.
Right.
And, again, today, 12 million views maybe doesn't seem like a lot.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I TikTok, people are blowing up all the time, but it was really big for me.
Right.
But again, because I was talking about race, there were a lot of people that were uncomfortable, and there were people that were calling me a racist. They were saying that I hate white people, and, this is not right. And if it was reversed, and I, for better or for worse, am very accessible. So I was in the comments, like fighting with people. I was arguing back and forth. And
why? So that's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Should you do that?
No, I think you really have to pick your battles. And I think that there are some people that are always going to dislike you no matter what. And they already have their mind made up about you. And so you have to decide, like, what is the purpose of me engaging with this person? And for me, especially on Twitter, even if I engage with someone who I disagree with, if I think I can make a broader point about the misconception, or I can clarify something, or I can use them as an example of how to better defend yourself on certain topics, I'll do it. Versus there are a lot of people I just don't engage with at all.
But I'm going to guess, I'm taking a wild guess though. I'm going to guess that you've never once changed anybody's mind.
I don't know that that's, I'm going to push back and say, I don't necessarily think that that's true, because I got a lot of emails from people that said that I did change their mind.
Really?
But I think it's, again, it's also a matter of what your approach is. And it also has to be somebody who actually wants to have their mind changed. There's a difference between somebody that just wants to argue and someone who genuinely says, I don't understand this thing and I want to. And I think whether it's online or in real life, we have to be better at gauging the difference, because it is a waste of your time to argue with the person who already has their mind made up versus to engage with the person who says, you've made me think about this differently. I'm not sure I agree yet, but I'm like close to figuring out if I could be.
And that makes you feel good knowing that. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
to me, it's exhausting. That's all.
Yeah, it is exhausting.
It really is.
It is exhausting, but I think what that video taught me about myself, and it really kind of shaped the direction that my content went in, is that there's a lot of that comedy is really powerful, that we can tell stories that we can tell the stories of people that don't necessarily see themselves represented and feel like they're being heard. We can expose people to new ideas. We can get people to think about the world that they inhabit and how they move through the world differently. And I realized, like, using comedy to talk about serious stuff is something that I wasn't seeing other people do on YouTube. And so I really started like shifting my content in that direction.
That's, would you say that's kind of your brand now? I mean, whatever that means.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know, it's hard. I'm trying to get out of it, if I'm being honest.
Why? Okay, yeah, why?
Because it is exhausting, because as a Black woman moving through the world, I'm constantly being asked to justify my existence and educate people and talk about serious topics all the time. So then to do that for my job is duly exhausting. And I struggle with it because I know I'm good at it and I know it's important, but it takes a lot out of me. And you know, like, I'm dealing with this right now with the writer's strike, where I'm making a lot of content about the strike because I think it's important, but I'm also being asked and pulled in every direction where people like, explain this, well, tell me this, well, it makes sense, da 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 da. And I'm like, this is actually my livelihood. Like, this is not just a trending topic on Twitter. Like, this is about how I'm going to continue to make a life for myself, you know?
But okay, so are you still making original content on YouTube?
No,
why not? I think you should.
I have a complicated relationship with YouTube. I guess the best way to say it is, you know, after I went viral, I got an agent. I left my day job. I started auditioning and I want to slow it down. The agent reached out to you. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I will also add that prior to that, I had made DVDs of all my stand-up and all my sketches, and I had mailed them out to every agent in New York, and not one person got back to me.
This is exactly what, okay, so I do a monthly webinar, free webinar, where I talk about Hollywood and how to break in. This is exactly what I talked about yesterday, is that you have to make them beg.
Yeah.
If you're begging them, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They have to look at you like you are like you have dollar signs on your face.
Yeah.
And that you're a big bag of money. And when they see money on your face, they'll come after you, which is what they saw with you. Okay.
It was like the year prior I had sent out those DVDs and I did not get one person to get back.
Same person, same talent. You just didn't have the platform yet.
Yeah. And then suddenly everybody wanted me. So then I got this agent, and, you know, I got the opportunity. I met with a manager, and she said, like, what's your dream? And I said, I want my own TV show. And
what kind of show, by the way?
Well, I didn't really know. I just knew I wanted a show. And she looked at my YouTube channel and was like, well, we should pitch like a sketch show. So I was out pitching the sketch show. Nobody bought it. And one of the places I went to, though, was MTV. And MTV was like, well, we really like you. We have this show about feminism and pop culture that's doing really well. Would you be interested in developing something similar about race? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. So I met with this production company called Core Neighbor Brown. We started developing what then became MTV Decoded. And, you know, Decoded has opened so many doors for me. I'm so proud of that show, but I dealt with so much harassment because of that show, so much. And YouTube, for better or for worse, did not really support me. And I really struggled with that
What
because,
kind of support were you hoping to get from them?
well, people were making death threats. People were
Oh,
taking my content and they were editing together videos of me to make me say that I hate all white men and I hate all white
oh
people
my
and I think
God.
people should die. And YouTube was like, well, it's not a copyright violation. And I was like, how is this not a copyright violation? Like,
So what
they
do you do when what do you do when that happens?
I mean, what I did was I ended up walking away. I mean, I did it for 6 years. And again, I am so thankful for all the doors that it opened. But I
Oh,
had to ask myself, like, is this worth it in terms of what I want? And what I want is to be a comedy writer. I don't want to be a professional educator. I don't
but I
want
imagine you were also monetizing this from YouTube. You were making money, right?
Well, it was MTV's content. So
Oh,
I was making a flat rate off on
right.
every episode. I was credited as executive producer because I
Mhm.
had developed the show. So I was being paid as the host and executive producer, and I was paid anytime I wrote an episode.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say I wrote about like 50% of the episodes, and then I got hired on the nightly show. So I was
Right.
on TV and I was doing Dakota at the same time. So we brought in writers.
Right.
So I was making a flat rate. I wasn't making a ton of money. I worked part-time jobs. I worked as a writer for Upworthy for 3 years.
Mhm.
I was speaking at colleges. I was doing like little TV things here and there, but MTV was not paying all my bills.
Right.
Um, and so when I really like took a step back and looked at where I wanted to go in my career, I was like, I just don't want to be an internet personality for the rest of my life. And
Mhm.
I don't want to be the girl who just talks about race. And I was
Right.
like, I'm glad that this has given me a platform and opened all these doors for me. But I would meet people and they were surprised that I was funny. And I
Mhm.
would say, well, I'm a comedian. They're like, no, you're not. I see you on Decoded. And I'm like,
Right.
well, Decoded is like an educational show. I'm not,
But the thing is, people say to me, I'm afraid about, like, they're not even in the business yet. I'm afraid about being put into a box. I'm afraid
right.
of doing this one thing and getting stuck in the box. And my attitude is get in the box first,
Yeah.
because you need to
Yeah.
get work. So
Yeah. Get
get
in
in
the
the
box first.
box
Yeah.
and then you worry about getting out of the box.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would, yes, I agree. Like, and if for me, I didn't know I was getting into a box. I was following what was being successful for me and what I was enjoying and what I was good at. And I did that for 6 years. I was on the nightly show. And even that, like I started for a minute, I was like, oh, I think I want to be a late night host. And then I was realizing like, oh, this is really hard. Like
Mm-hmm.
talking about the news and
Yeah.
writing about what's happening in the world and trying to put in a funny spin is just it's hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard. And again, I learned so much, but I think what I really learned was I was like, if I have a TV show one
You
night a
know,
week, I don't want
you
to do
doing,
5 nights a week.
but even on your channel, which I poked around, I was like, oh my God, like you interviewed Michelle Obama. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, what? How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean that was through YouTube. So because I was so active and I had won that Emmys contest and I won that Next Up contest, like I had a relationship with YouTube. Like I would speak at events there.
Hmm.
One time they had this party where they had an airplane circling LA with like celebrities and I hosted the plane. Like I was speaking over like the speaker in the plane. It was so weird. It was very fun, but like that was because of YouTube. And so they would regularly reach out to me and say like, oh, we're doing this event. Would you host it? Or would you speak on this panel or
So
whatever?
leaving it must have been very hard for you because on the one hand, they were good to you. On the other hand,
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't getting paid for a lot of those things. Like
oh, really? It was
no,
just
no.
exposure.
Yeah, it was just it was exposure, and that was also part of it. Like that was me making a conscientious decision that I wasn't going to do unpaid work anymore. That
Uh-huh.
I started saying like, okay, cool, like you guys are happy to have to fly me out and have me speak on a panel, but I then have to run back to my hotel room and like write these articles because I don't have money, and like
Wow.
my visibility, I think a lot of times people think like, oh, I see you everywhere, so that must mean you're making a lot of money, that must mean you're crushing it, and that's just not always the case.
Hey, it's Michael Jamin. If you like my videos and you want me to email them to you for free, join my watch list. Every Friday, I send out my top 3 videos. These are for writers, actors, creative types. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. I'm not going to spam you, and it's absolutely free. Just go to michaeljamin.com/watchlist.
But even on your videos, on your YouTube videos, you were you can't monetize them. You just didn't, you weren't getting a lot. That's
no, I wasn't. I was never consistent, largely because I always had a regular job. Like I tried being a full-time YouTuber, and the money is so inconsistent. It's a once a month paycheck.
Yeah.
And you don't know how much it is, because some months you have a really good month and your views are really up. Other months your views are really down. I don't know what they're like now, but at the time, your ads did not automatically come on your video. Sometimes the ads wouldn't show up for like a day or two. So if you got all your views in those first 2 days and then they dropped off by the time you got ads, you didn't make any money.
Oh, interesting.
And then there's like certain times of year that were really good. I was always trying different things, right? Like I was making I made these Christmas card videos. I made these videos that you're supposed to send to people for their birthday. I did parodies. Lady Gaga came out with a song. So I did a video for, like, I stayed up all night, like editing this video. So
you did it. Gwen Stefani, you sounded just like her. That was great.
I would do all these impressions, and I was just realizing that the amount of hours I was putting in were it wasn't paying off for me, is what I was realizing. And that was a big part of my transition into like, I want to be in TV.
Right.
That's always been the goal. I went to acting school. I didn't know I was going to become a writer. And I was so glad that I was doing that. But I was like, I don't want to be on YouTube for the rest of my life. I don't want to make videos in my apartment. I don't want to make videos about my life. I want to work in TV. So really focusing on that. And again, doing Decoded was awesome, but I realized like what I have to do is I got to get a sample, right? Like I have to put together a packet. Like I have to start doing the things that are going to move me into the next phase. And I think kind of to your point about being in a box, I think you have to be open to, if you're in a box or people are seeing you one way, being open to saying, what else can I do? And like, how can I show people that I'm more than this one thing? And taking that risk and believing in yourself is really scary, but it's essential, because I could have done Decoded for the rest of my life, and I don't want to do that.
But then, so iCarly was your first scripted.
And then it was.
So how did you get that? Because that's a big leap. You have to write.
Yeah. So before iCarly, what did I do before iCarly? So I did the nightly show, and then I sold a pilot to Comedy Central. And the pilot was with the same producers that did Decoded. And it was kind of like a late night sketch type show. And we didn't go to series. They actually gave us a mini room, and I did not know it was a mini room at the time. I was just happy that I was getting a writer's room. And so we wrote 10 episodes of the show. We didn't go to series. I wrote a book. I did a book tour.
And how did the book come about? Which the book is called "Well, That Escalated Quickly," which I imagine in the memoir it's Memoir and Mistakes of an Accidental Activist, which is that's a perfect title, because I think that's exactly what you were, right?
Yeah. I mean, it really was a collection of essays about a lot of the mistakes that I had made in communicating with other people on the internet and talking about things that were important to me and all the lessons that I had learned along the way. And after Shit White Girls Say went viral, I had a number of people reaching out to me asking me to write a book, but I just didn't know what I wanted to write a book about.
Is there agents or publishers?
Literary agents saying like, you should write a book. And I just didn't know what I wanted to write a book about. I kept putting it off.
Funny.
And then after Nightly Show was still on the air, and I decided, I think I want to give this a chance. And I finally had, initially I wanted it to just be called Accidental Activist, and that was going to be the title. And I started putting together a book proposal and meeting with literary agents. And I met this great literary agent, and she gave me like really good notes on my proposal. She really ripped it apart. And I was so happy, because I felt like she was the first person I talked to that wasn't like blowing smoke up my ass. She was the first person that was like, this is good, but it could be better.
Right.
And so she and I worked together for like 2 months on the proposal. And then we went and did a number of meetings. I think we met with like 6 publishers.
And you didn't want to write it first. You wanted to pitch it first, to get it sold first.
Yeah. So with nonfiction, you don't have to write it first. With fiction, usually you do have to write it
Right.
first. If you've written a book before, the fiction proposal, you usually don't have to write the whole thing. But for nonfiction, you usually write like 2 or 3 chapters, and then you do like a summary of what the book is about and a bio and who you are and why this book, and what are books that are in the same family as yours, and
Right.
what your plan for press would be and all that stuff. And I went to school for graphic design, so I made like a really beautiful book proposal with like photos
Oh,
and
wow.
artwork, and I drew all these little charts and graphs and stuff because that's kind of like, I love infographics. And so yeah, we went to maybe 6 or 7 publishers, and I got 4 offers.
Wow.
And they went kind of head to head, and my agent was pitting them against each other.
Wow.
Yeah, and I got a 6-figure book deal, which was a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then did they help you, promote it, put you on tour?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of when you work with a publisher is they have a publicist, like an in-house. I was at Grand Central Publishing, so they had a publicist, and we did a photo shoot for the book, and I spent my own money. Like I got a publicist. I also had a website built for the book, and then we did an 8-city book tour. And I got cities added because I really wanted to do something in Florida, where I'm from. And that was where I reached out to some of my contacts from the chamber and got my local Miami bookstore.
Why is there only 8 cities though? What when they say they're putting on tour, like, I don't know.
Well, they looked at the analytics from like my Facebook and my Instagram and my YouTube to see like where my audience was at.
Okay.
And they used that to pick what cities.
And then people came out and
Yeah.
you read and signed books.
Yeah. So I reached out to friends in different cities, and I had different people as kind of like my co-host in each city. And it was awesome, but it was exhausting. It was really exhausting. And I was doing that at the same time that I was doing my Comedy Central pilot. And all of this is to say that like in that moment, I thought, like, I'm making it. I was like, I'm making it. I'm about to be like a star.
That's what I would think. But
and then my show didn't go. No, because then my show didn't go.
But that's normal. Most shows don't go.
Right. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought I'm a failure, especially because like,
really?
Think about it this way. When a pilot gets announced, right? This is my first time having a pilot ever. A pilot gets announced, and people that don't work in TV think that means you have a TV show. They're like, where is the show? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm making the pilot now. And they're like, well, when does it come out? I'm like, I don't know. It hasn't been ordered to series. So like people were writing articles about me, like 10 reasons Franchesca's going to change late night. And like, we need Franchesca's show. And like, she's amazing. And Larry Wilmore had gotten canceled. So it was like, Franchesca Ramsey's going to be the only Black woman late night host. And like all of this hype was coming for me. And my book was coming out, and my publisher was really like, this is it. We're going to time it with the show. And then
you were believing this too. And
I was believing, of course I was believing it. I was like, oh my God, I want this so badly, and hindsight is 2020. Like, it was not the show for me. I'm glad that I didn't end up making that show, because I really don't want to host a late night show about identity. I thought I did, but I don't want to anymore. And so like when it didn't go to series, and then, well, we did the mini room, and that was kind of like a consolation prize. But even that, I was like, it was another year of staffing and putting the room together and trying to figure out what the show was. And then waiting around for Comedy Central. And then they said, we're not going to series. They were like, well, let's sell it somewhere else. So I was like shooting these sketches, and that
doesn't happen.
Right.
So rarely happens, but okay.
Right. Well, especially because other networks are like, well, you didn't want it. Why do we want it?
They don't want damaged goods.
You didn't want it. So now you think I'm going to make the show? Again. And I'm just kind of like, I'm just going along. Right. Like, I'm going and taking these meetings, and you have meetings, and they're like, we love you, you're amazing, you're great, we're passing.
Yes, I know all those meetings.
Right. And so I was just like, oh my God, my career is over. And I got a writing job on Yearly Departed, which was a late an end of the year comedy show. And that was through Twitter. Bess Kalb, who was our showrunner followed me on Twitter. We were friendly, and my reps were like, hey, there's this end of the year comedy special. Do you want to take a meeting? I took the meeting, and Bess was just like, I love you. I think you're super funny. She had read my sample, and yeah, it was like a series of eulogies for different things throughout the year.
Uh-huh.
And we did it over Zoom
Oh,
because it was
wow.
during the pandemic. And I was still auditioning, and that's when I booked Superstore. I booked Superstore while I was doing Yearly Departed. So I went to LA to do Superstore, and it just worked out that it was at the same time that Yearly was going to film. So I got to be on set and see that happen. And after being here for Superstore, again, in the middle of the pandemic, I was like, I don't really want to go back to New York.
Right.
What if I just stay?
Well, but you're married, aren't you?
I was.
Okay.
I got divorced in 2019.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about your husband coming over here.
No. We got divorced before I got hired on that show. Yeah, I mean, right, like the year before the pandemic.
Right. And then how did iCarly come about then?
My managers were just like, hey, I told them I wanted to staff.
Right.
And so, yeah, I took a meeting with Ali Schouten, who was our showrunner. And again, she read my sample. And I think what she really appreciated was that I had this background as an internet person. And, Carly is an internet personality. And I had actual experience and dealing with trolls and dealing with going viral and live streaming and fans and social media. And so Ali was
perfect choice.
Ali was like, you really understand this world. And I went into my meeting, and I had watched episodes of iCarly, and I pitched some ideas as for what I felt like would be the direction that I would be interested in going in. And prior to that, I had my friend Shamika that I mentioned that I had met through YouTube. She and I had sold a pilot to Fox. And so I learned a lot about the scripted process through that, just through development. It was with Kay Cannon, and Kay is amazing. I learned so much from her.
But was it intimidating for you to be, because now you're out of your element again? You haven't done scripted, so
it wasn't intimidating. I really feel very fortunate because I was able to work with a friend of mine that I had known for, almost 10 years. And she and I had made YouTube videos together, and we had come out to LA for pilot season as actors, and we got an apartment together. And through the audition process, we were like, all of these scripts are bad. We could fucking do this. We're like, we could write a script better than this. And so we wrote like a treatment. We didn't even write a full script. And then we, through our agents, went and took a bunch of meetings, and we met with Amy Poehler's company. We went to Kay Cannon, which is KNL. We went to a whole bunch of places, but Kay and Laverne, her business partner, we just loved them. And they were like, we want to develop this with you. And so they really taught us how to develop and structure a scripted pitch.
That was the Fox show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I had never pitched a scripted project before. Everything was like sketch, late night, variety. And so, yeah, off of that, again, we didn't go to series, but we wrote the pilot. And so I used that as like a sample, even though I'd written it with someone else. And then I had a sample that I'd written by myself. And then I had like all my decoded videos, and I had sketches from my Comedy Central pilot. And yeah, and then just like meeting Ali. And then I had also worked on Yearly Departed. And I think, I really advocated for myself in the sense that I said, look, I haven't done this before, but I'm a really hard worker, and like I learn fast. And like, I'll put myself out there and I'll figure out how to get it done.
But this is the direction you want to go in: writing, script, and performing. Yeah, right. Now, I know I'm just changing gears here, but
no, it's okay.
How often do you post now on TikTok?
I don't,
or even Instagram.
I don't post that often. I just came off of, in April, I tried to post I posted every day in April on Instagram. And that was just a personal challenge for myself, because I really wanted to really kind of wrap my mind around what I missed about creating content. As I'm sure you've experienced, I've been stuck in development for a few years, and I have been feeling disillusioned about the industry, and look at
Yeah.
now we're on strike.
Yeah.
But I was feeling burnt out, and
It's so funny that you were disillusioned because you don't realize this, but you've had tremendous amount of success. It's just
yes,
not what you thought it was going to be. But
no,
from me, I've been doing this longer than you have. You
yes, I
have a
know.
lot of success. You just don't. It
Yeah.
wasn't what you thought it would be. That's all.
Right. And I also am guilty of the comparison game.
Mhm.
I came up with a lot of people that have had a lot of success, and I'm very proud of them, and I root for them. But sometimes it's not hard. Sometimes it's hard to not be like, oh God, when is it my
Yeah.
turn? When is it my turn? And
Yeah.
I have sold a show every year since 2017, and none
Right.
of them have gone to series.
You just-
And
I'm laughing at you.
I
They're not
know you
supposed
are.
to. They're not supposed to go to series.
I know, but I want one of them to go. I
It's
mean,
a
look,
mistake when one goes to series. Someone screwed up, and you go, oh my God, they made a mistake, and I'm going to series. That's how it goes.
I believe that at some point one will go to series, but
Right.
and again, I'm candid, and I share this because I know there are other people who do look at me and think like, oh my God, she's doing it. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at other people going, oh, they're doing it. And I wish I was doing it too. And so for me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to my roots. I love making content, and I would
Mhm.
make content every single day. And I never got paid for this shit. I was doing it and I wasn't paying my bills, but it fueled me, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun, and it was challenging. And instead of overthinking it, and instead of having to get on a Zoom and talk to executives and get notes and have everybody else pitch in, I was like, what do I want to make?
Right.
And it was really exciting. I tried all different sorts of new things. And some of the things I would post on TikTok, what's weird for me is if something does really well on TikTok, it bombs on Instagram. And if something does
Yeah.
really well on Instagram, it bombs on TikTok.
How funny. See, I feel like I can do stuff that does really well on TikTok, but nothing does well on Instagram.
Well, it just depends. I mean, I am fortunate that I've been doing this for a long time, and so I built an audience just brick by brick. I think people go into this now and they're like, I want to go viral, and like, you just have to make something because you have something to say, and if people love it, awesome, and if nobody loves it, fine, you
And
move
it's
on.
also consistency, but also you're really putting. There's a couple of lessons I think from talking to you. Like, you're being consistent. You've been doing this a long time. You're
Yeah.
not giving up. You're putting yourself out there. You are exposing yourself very vulnerably. Like, honestly, people are coming after you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that may have made that, if I were in your shoes, I may have shrunk away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think that when you're in a creative field, you have to have a little dose of being delusional. Like,
Yes.
you
Yes.
have to believe in yourself more. You have to be on
Oh
your
my God.
team before anybody else is. And while I'm so thankful for all of the success that I had, I was making videos and no one was watching them.
Yes.
No one was watching them, and I was still making them, and I was still putting hours. And this is before there was a partner program. I wasn't making any money. I was
Mhm.
coming home from work, and I was spending all of my time making these videos because I just thought it was fun and I enjoyed it, and I felt like I
Right.
had something to say. And
Right.
when I got my agent, I will never forget. He was like, you have so many videos. And I was like, yeah, I've been doing
Yes.
this for 6 years. And he picked out ones that didn't go viral. He was like, this is a really good video. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it didn't really do it. He's like, but this is better than shit white girls say. And I was
Yeah.
like,
You never know.
I agree.
Yeah. You never know what's going to go viral, and you can't predict it. You just
No.
have to just keep expressing yourself.
No, I think you're almost setting yourself up if you say, oh, this is the one that's going to go viral. It's always the one that you don't think. It's always the
Yeah.
one that you like put no time into, and you just kind of like crapped out. And then that's the one that does well.
But you're still post. So I asked you how many you post a day on TikTok. You said you for a while, 1 month you did a post a day. But what's your cadence now?
On TikTok, just not that much. I've been on a posting spree with like the strike because I've been making a lot of content about it.
Yeah.
And I have felt inspired. I felt inspired because I realized, wow, people don't understand what we do for a living. They don't
Mhm.
understand how TV is made. They don't know why we're on strike. They think we're all millionaires.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is what I'm good. I'm really good at short form informational content. I'm really good at that. So I was like, cool, I'll just make a bunch of that stuff. So I like in the past few weeks, I've maybe posted like 3 or 4 times a week on TikTok.
Okay. But you're pretty active on Twitter though, but that's more conversational. That's more, I have a thought and I'm going to share it.
Yeah, but I've been posting videos on TikTok. Oh my God. I've been posting videos on Twitter also.
Right. Oh, really? Really? That hadn't even occurred to me. I have very few followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
This whole thing is new to me. You're teaching me, honestly.
Yeah. For better or for worse, what I like about Twitter is it feels like you can eavesdrop on a whole bunch of conversations. And I think for writers, especially, just learning how to be concise about your opinions and your thoughts and doing them in a way that is really digestible and also shareable.
And get to the point. And don't waste time in the beginning because people they're already moving their thumb. They're already finding something else.
And you have a limited number of characters. So you need to be able to choose your words carefully and know how to edit yourself and know how to tell a story, especially if you're like making a thread of different tweets. Like you need to be able to compel the person to keep scrolling. Like you need to, it's almost like, you know, that end of Act 1 cliffhanger where you're like, okay, I want you to come back after commercial break.
Right.
I'm going to promise you that there's going to be more. And so what's been really exciting for me is to just learn all of the different ways that my skills and my interest and my experiences have helped me become a better storyteller, a better writer, a better performer.
When I ran into you the other day on the picket line, were you with other iCarly? In my mind, you're with your iCarly.
No. But the people that I'm friends with from iCarly were not there. My writing partner, Shamika, was there. Now, so Shamika and I sold a pilot to Fox. We sold one to Paramount Plus last year. And we had a project at Netflix over the middle of the pandemic. And that's my work wife. I mean, she is my best friend and we could not be more different, but we love working together. So I was with her and like some other like stand-ups and stuff.
Are you still performing stand-up?
I'm trying. I'm like dabbling. I'm thinking about getting back into it. I did my friend Jenna Friedman's show in support of her book. And I had such a good time. And so many people were like, where can I see you perform? And I was like, oh, I don't really do stand-up anymore. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. And it was all in the same world of like me feeling disillusioned about my career and being like, I need something. I was like, I need something that's just for me. And something that I can still be creative and I don't have to get notes on it and I don't have to work on a deadline. And like, for example, I painted my apartment, my apartment, I've painted every wall in my apartment. And I made all these videos about it. And so many people are like, your apartment's so amazing. And I was like, I needed something to do that was just for me. I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care what color you think it should be. I'm going to make something for myself.
You are speaking to the choir. You really are.
I think, and you know what the thing is too, is I think especially for people who don't work in creative fields and they're like, I want to be a TV writer, I want to, make movies and blah, blah, blah. When you turn your creative passion into a job, it can very easily feel like I fucking hate this.
I did a post about this a couple weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because you realize that like the business of creativity, and this is what we're going through right now with the writer's strike, is it's not just about creativity, it's about money. It's about profits. And here you are going, but this is my baby. And they're like, we have to kill your baby. Your baby is going to die. We're going to do, now the baby is an alien. And now this needs to happen and this and da, 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 da. And it can be really soul sucking and soul crushing.
See, so funny you say, because I've done this for a long time and I'm past the point where it's soul crushing. Now it's like, oh, you want to change the alien to a robot? That sounds good. Whatever you want.
I mean, I also admit that I am just very sensitive and I've gotten better at it and I learn how to pick my battles. I think the first time around I was so terrified when I would get notes that I would just be like, okay, I'll do whatever you want. And like now I know how to say like, oh, I don't agree with that note. Like, here's what I would do differently, or like how to make the exec think that they came up with the idea. Like I'm going to address the note differently, but now you're going to think that I did what you asked for. And that just took time. And also now again, because of how precarious this business is, I always have like 3 or 4 things going. So I'm like, okay, I hope this project goes, but if it dies, it's not going to be the end of my world. I have other stuff going on.
Right. You're always working on something else.
Yeah.
Wow. Francesca, I just think you were so inspiring. I really I hope you know that I look at you as a huge success.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I really do, because you're just doing it. You're putting yourself out there and you're making it happen. And it's okay if this one failed, something else. It's okay. You're moving forward. You're doing great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That really means a lot. And I mean everything that I said when I first met you, that I've learned from watching your content, and I'm really inspired by you. And I think we need more people in this industry who are generous with their knowledge, and there is space for all of us to win. Your success is not my failure.
You know what, though? It's not so much that I don't think I'm being generous with my knowledge. It's just that it's a lot of work to be generous with your knowledge. It's a lot of work to post every day, which is why I don't think people are. And also, why put yourself, I get trolls too. So like, why do that to yourself?
I guess I mean in the sense that there are a lot of gatekeepers in every industry that move from a place of a scarcity mindset, in that they believe that if other people know what they know, if other people have access to the people that they do, that it's going to be at their detriment. And I do not believe that that is true.
No, it's not true at all. Yeah.
I don't believe that that is true. And I believe that your success is my success. And I would like for other creative folks to be in the industry, because guess what? You might need somebody to be on staff. Hook me up. I want to.
That's the thing. People don't realize it's not a competition. It's a community. Writers, writing is a community.
Yes. Yes. I remember a few months ago, there is a pilot program with TikTok stars and NBC Universal, like helping them develop and basically giving them like a first look. And there were lots of people on Twitter that were so mad about it. How dare they give these TikTokers? And I pushed back to say, first of all, a development deal does not mean you have a TV show. Most of us know that.
Right.
That does not mean anything's going to series. And if something does go to series, guess what? They're going to need a showrunner. They're going to need writers. We should be shepherding new people into the business, because when you get a job, we all get jobs, right? And we live in the world of Issa Rae and Quinta Brunson and Bo Burnham, and people who started from their bedrooms and are now making successful television shows that win awards and staff new writers and people from diverse backgrounds who would never have gotten their foot in the door if it hadn't been for the internet. So I am of the mind that if I teach you how to make TV, if I teach you how to get an agent or write a pilot or, build your online following, it's not going to hurt my career.
Right.
Like, your success can be my success too. And I just say all that to say that that feels very much like your ethos. And I really respect that. Wow. So I really appreciate, and I really enjoy the work that you're doing.
Tell everyone how they can find you across all your freaking platforms.
So I'm Chescaleigh across everything except for TikTok. Somebody else got Chescaleigh.
Oh, damn.
I know, it's fine. I'm Franchesca on TikTok.
Right.
Or just search Franchesca Ramsey. There is an H in my name. I'm the only Franchesca Ramsey. I think there's another one, but I've buried her in the Google results. Sorry.
Bury her.
I did. She used to come up years ago, and I don't think she's on there anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. I look forward to seeing you on the picket lines. I know you'll be back out there.
I will be back. All right, everyone. What a wonderful episode. Thank you so much. Remember, I got a ton of free stuff on my website. You go to michaeljamin.com/shout. I got an email list. I got a newsletter, which is free tips. I got a free mini course. Go get it. It's all there. And thank you so much. Until next week. All right, everyone. Keep writing.
This has been an episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin and Phil Hudson. If you're interested in learning more about writing, make sure you register for Michael's monthly webinar at michaeljamin.com/webinar. If you found this podcast helpful, consider sharing it with a friend and leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. For free screenwriting tips, follow Michael Jamin on social media at Michael Jamin Writer. You can follow Phil Hudson on social media at Phil A. Hudson. This podcast was produced by Phil Hudson. It was edited by Dallas Crane. Music by Ken Joseph. Until next time, keep writing.